Chapter 91, Another Fight with Shan Yanghui. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The competition continues. After that, Nangong Lingxian, Chen Feixing and others appeared one after another. Their own strength was so strong that their disciples had no power to resist them, and in the end they all chose to surrender. Things like Xiao Fan and Li Dong just didn't happen anymore. Not long after, it was Zhu Gang's turn to play. This time he didn't have the same good luck as before. Opposite him was a talented disciple who was at the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. Less than a moment after the two of them fought, Zhu Gang was defeated. Regarding this result, Zhu Gang did not show any frustration on his face. After all, he was very happy to win the first game. An hour later, all competitions in the second round ended. There are still more than 100 people left at this time. Su Yongnian, the leader of the outer sect, looked around and said with a smile, "There are still 106 people left. In this case, I will be the master for once, and all of you can get the reward of entering the top 100. Do you want to continue the competition next? You are free to do so." After hearing Su Yongnian's words, most of the disciples around him looked happy. Xiao Fan also nodded secretly, thinking that this white-haired old man was very good at winning people's hearts. He Yutong took a step forward. Next, people will be selected for the third competition. Whether or not to participate is entirely voluntary. For many people, there is no need to continue after they have already received the first 100 rewards. After all, many people are not strong enough and think that they will not get any better rankings even if they continue. In the end, there are 84 people left who are willing to continue playing in ranking matches. The drawing continues. It's still the old rule, everyone whose name is red goes on stage to face off one by one. Half an hour later, Xiao Fan's name was red. I don't know if it's fate. Xiao Fan's opponent turned out to be Shan Yanghui. Xiao Fan, Shan Yanghui. Yutong's low voice made both of them stunned, especially Xiao Fan. He even felt that there was something behind the lottery. I beat Li Dong in the last game, and this time I beat Shan Yanghui. Both of them had holidays with him. After just thinking for a moment, Xiao Fan stepped forward onto the ring. His opponent was Shan Yanghui, and there was no need for him to hold back. After all, the other party had helped Li Dong stand up against him. Whatever the reason, both sides still have an unfinished fight. When he heard that his opponent was Xiao Fan, Shan Yanghui's face was grim. After Xiao Fan, he also jumped forward and entered the ring. When Xiao Fan's strength was at the 6th level of Qi transformation realm before, he could barely suppress Xiao Fan, but now that the opponent breaks through, he is not confident whether he can defeat the opponent. But after all, Shan Yanghui is a young genius who has cultivated to the 8th level of the Qi transformation realm, and his combat power is comparable to the 9th level of the Qi transformation realm. I didn't expect to meet you so soon. Shan Yanghui spoke first. His eyes were full of vigilance, his aura enveloped the surroundings, and he was ready to take action at any time. Yes. Xiao Fan smiled lightly. I didn't expect to meet you so soon. After all, the last time you came to trouble me, there was still no winner between you and me. Shan Yanghui did not open his mouth to explain anything, because it was meaningless. Once he took action, he took action. He indeed helped Li Dong to deal with Xiao Fan. Then let me see how strong you are now that you have reached the 7th level of Qi transformation realm. Shan Yanghui shouted loudly, and an even more surging aura surged out of him, reaching the peak of his strength in an instant. Everyone around was paying attention to this duel. Everyone knows that Shan Yanghui, like Li Dong, has fought against Xiao Fan before and had some issues. The difference is that Li Dong was beaten last time, but Shan Yanghui and Xiao Fan were tied. Who can win this competition? It's hard to say. If Xiao Fan is still at the 6th level of Qi transformation realm, then Shan Yanghui should have a greater chance of winning, but it's okay if we lose, but I don't know if Xiao Fan will beat Shan Yanghui like he did to Li Dong. Discussions continued, and this competition attracted almost everyone's attention, even the elders. Su Yongnian glanced at He Yutong. Others didn't know, but he knew very well. During the drawing of lots, He Yutong had indeed manipulated things. Xiao Fan drew Li Dong and Shan Yanghui, both of which he did deliberately. As for the intention, on the one hand, I wanted to see Xiao Fan's strength, and on the other hand, I wanted to give Xiao Fan a chance to take revenge in an honest and fair way. On the ring, Shan Yanghui shouted loudly. His figure was like a dragon, extremely fast, but he did not rush towards Xiao Fan, but circled around the ring. What is this doing? Some people in the audience were puzzled and spoke in confusion. In other words, most people present didn't know what Shan Yanghui wanted to do by running around in the ring. Nangong Lingxian and Chen Feixing also paid attention to the battle between the two. Previously, Shan Yanghui was known as the second most important person in the selection of disciples, and the two of them had always regarded Shan Yanghui as their imaginary enemy, and with Xiao Fan's sudden appearance, they had one more imaginary enemy, and he was rated higher and more dangerous than Shan Yanghui in their hearts. Are you planning a sneak attack? Xiao Fan looked at Shan Yanghui who was surrounding him and sneered, I advise you to give up this idea. However, Xiao Fan's words did not make Shan Yanghui stop. After a few breaths, Shan Yanghui instantly projected 5 flying knives while running quickly. Each comes from different directions. Because the speed was so fast, they were shot out almost instantly. These flying knives were extremely fast. The sound of breaking through the air was heard, and they were in front of Xiao Fan in the blink of an eye. Xiao Fan sneered, patted the storage bag, and the coiling dragon spear appeared in his hand, and he knocked the 5 flying knives to the ground without haste. However, at this moment, Shan Yanghui disappeared, no longer running around, but suddenly accelerated to the top of Xiao Fan's head, and a powerful long knife appeared in his hand. Die! Shan Yanghui shouted loudly, aimed his long knife at Xiao Fan's head and slashed it down. It's a mysterious magic weapon. When someone around them recognized them, they exclaimed, Kabeaquo Golden Sword, a middle-grade Xian-level magical weapon. It's even 1 level higher than the coiling dragon spear. Shan Yanghui first ran around violently, partly to distract Xiao Fan so that he could make a sudden move. He threw 5 flying knives, part of the plot, and part of it was to distract Xiao Fan, and then kill him when Xiao Fan had a flaw. He had no intention of fighting a protracted battle with Xiao Fan. The opponent was very strong and Shan Yanghui knew it would be difficult to win in a head-on confrontation. Xiao Fan's eyes flashed coldly and he did not turn around because it was too late. He released his left hand, clenched his right hand tightly, and made a counterattack move. At this moment, he continued to pour spiritual power into the coiling dragon spear. As if the spear was alive, it roared like a dragon. This stab was aimed at Shan Yanghui's heart. Damn it! Shan Yanghui cursed in a low voice, gave up the idea of slashing Xiao Fan, and drew his knife to avoid. The spear stabbed further than the knife attack. Before the knife landed on Xiao Fan's head, his heart would be pierced by the opponent first. In just an instant, Xiao Fan cracked the opponent's offensive. And in the simplest and most direct way. Chapter 92 The 3 Strongmen Showdown with Chen Feixing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although the fight lasted only a moment, everyone nearby was terrified. His gasps abounded. This Shan Yanghui grasps the timing very well and strikes ruthlessly. Although he is only at the 8th level of Qi transformation, most people at the 9th level of Qi transformation are no match for him. Chao Mu, an elder from the weapon refining lineage with a skinny figure, said lightly that he had a high opinion of Shan Yanghui. Oh, isn't the Xiao Fan opposite him very powerful? He's only at the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. Shan Yanghui doesn't dare to touch him head-on. Shi Ji, a charming woman from the formation lineage, covered her mouth and smiled. Chao Mu didn't say anything to refute, because what the other party said was the truth. Haha. Both of them are good. It's a pity that Xiao Fan is obviously better in talent. Sect leader Su Yongnian smiled and said that he spoke highly of Xiao Fan. Shan Yanghui can leapfrog the challenge, but Xiao Fan is lower than him but can easily fight him. This is proof. Jiang Yushan, who was in charge of the pill line, never spoke, with a cold and arrogant look on his face, standing with his hands behind his back. The same goes for He Yutang, who usually has such a serious personality. After Xiao Fan repelled Shan Yanghui, he did not stop and held the coiling dragon spear tightly. This time it was his turn to take the initiative. Shan Yanghui is not weak, he has the combat power of the 9th level of the Qi transformation realm, and he has learned high-level skills since he was a child. He has few opponents at the same level, however, facing Xiao Fan, whose cultivation level was 1 level lower than his. He had no power to parry and could only barely defend. in Xiao Fan's hands, the coiling dragon spear was like a real dragon, showing extremely powerful power, far exceeding its previous power in the hands of the head of the Su family. Although the Panlong spear is one level lower than the opponent's long sword, the aura it displays is even more ferocious. Damn! Shan Yanghui's hand holding the long sword was trembling, and his face was ashen. Although he had judged Xiao Fan to be very strong before the fight, the fighting power shown by the opponent at this time shocked him. Ridiculously strong. Where is the 7th level of Qi transformation realm? If Xiao Fan is said to have reached the great perfection of Qi transformation realm, he believes it. Terrible. After a short exchange of dozens of moves, Shan Yanghui became more and more struggling, with more than a dozen blood marks on his body, while Xiao Fan on the opposite side was completely fine. It seems you are not that strong. Xiao Fan looked calm, and while talking, he took action. The coiling dragon spear let out a burst of dragon roar, and then stabbed Shan Yanghui's right arm. Shan Yanghui's face was extremely ugly. He had tried his best, but he was still no match for Xiao Fan. I surrender. In the end, Shan Yanghui gave up with a face full of reluctance. He knew that even if the fight continued, he would definitely be the loser in the end. Xiao Fan put away the coiling dragon spear in his hand and did not deal with Shan Yanghui like he did with Li Dong. First, because the opponent is very strong, he cannot kill easily. Even if Li Dong and Shan Yanghui are at the same level, Li Dong is definitely no match for Shan Yanghui. The second reason is that there is no such deep hatred between the two, so there is no need. Shan Yanghui left the ring with injuries all over his body, and everyone was in awe after seeing it. Ben is the popular figure in this selection, known as the number 1 person under Nangong Lingxian. The result turned out to be like this. Xiao Fan also walked off the ring. This battle was nothing to him. With his current strength, his cultivation was not at the 9th level of Qi transformation realm, so he did not pose any threat at all. Seeing Xiao Fan get off the ring, Zhu Gang rushed forward and said with a flattering smile, "Brother, you are too ruthless. If you defeat Shan Yanghui, you will definitely enter the top 3. Zhu Gang was extremely excited. He knew that Xiao Fan was powerful in combat, but he never expected that he would be so strong. Even Shan Yanghui was no match for him. Being in the top 3 means having your own separate training cave. Xiao Fan smiled and had a new assessment of his current strength. In the eyes of many disciples, Xiao Fan is a powerful and vengeful evil star, someone you should never mess with. In the eyes of the outer sect master and several elders, they stared at Xiao Fan like a treasure, except for Yutong. These elders saw Xiao Fan take action for the first time. Everyone was amazed by this junior's performance. The Leapfrog Challenge is a qualification that only geniuses have. However, judging from the combat power Xiao Fan just showed, he at least has the strength of the 9th level of Qi transformation. It's terrible. This shows that Xiao Fan's talent is by no means ordinary. This guy is good. At this time, the elder who opened his mouth turned out to be Jiang Yushan, with black hair and a very serious expression. Several elders around him looked at each other in surprise. They had known each other for many years, and they knew very well how high Jiang Yushan's vision was. There are only a handful of people who are pleasing to his eyes, and those who can get a word of praise from him are rare. The competition continued, and they were eliminated one by one. In the end, less than 50 people were left. At this time, the strongest people have been recognized, that is, Nangong Lingxian, Xiao Fan, and Chen Feixing. Everyone has even made a decision silently in their hearts. If they meet these 3 people, they can just choose to surrender. 3 more hours passed in the blink of an eye, and it was already dusk. After layers of elimination, the top 20, top 10, and finally the top 3 were determined, as expected by everyone. They are Nangong Lingxian, Xiao Fan, and Chen Feixing. Yutong's voice was loud, and he said to the 3 of them, in the last competition, the 3 of you will each compete once, and the one who wins both games will be ranked first. Scene 1, Xiao Fan, Chen Feixing. Xiao Fan glanced at Chen Feixing and jumped onto the ring without hesitation. The rules of this final battle for first place are very clear. The one who defeats the 2 will be the first. As for second place, it doesn't mean anything. Except for first place, the rewards for second and third places are the same. when Chen Feixing saw that Xiao Fan had already entered the ring, he did not hesitate and jumped on the ring immediately afterwards. The two stood at opposite ends of the ring and looked at each other. Neither of them made a move first, they were both sizing up each other. You are very strong. Although I am at a higher level than you, my chances of winning are not great. After a while, Chen Feixing spoke first. This was also the first time he spoke to Xiao Fan. I can feel that you are strong too. Xiao Fan also spoke. Chen Feixing gave him a very mysterious and low-key feeling. This person's cultivation reached the 8th level of the Qi transformation realm without anyone noticing. Although his external spiritual power fluctuated normally, Xiao Fan could feel that he was more dangerous than Shan Yanghui. Chen Feixing shook his head non-committally and said with a wry smile, "The Earth-level cultivation technique is very attractive, so I will fight with all my strength." Me too. Chen Feixing's aura suddenly changed. Before, he always gave people the impression that he was a very gentle person with a low sense of presence. However, at this time, the aura on his body was extremely violent, as if he was a different person. Xiao Fan looked at it with an eyebrow. He did not dare to be careless in the face of such an opponent, and the coiling dragon spear appeared in his hand. You are very strong, so I have to use my full strength from the beginning. Chen Feixing's face was ferocious, like a crazy beast. Chapter 93 Blood Refining Method Earth-Level Middle-Grade Magical Weapon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Fan frowned. Chen Feixing was in a very strange state opposite him. Not only did his aura become violent, but Chen Feixing's appearance also changed greatly. His originally fair face had turned flushed, with veins all over his forehead, and his pupils shrank slightly and turned scarlet. That everyone was shocked. Everyone could see that Chen Feixing's current state was very wrong. What's going on? Judging from the breath, this little guy seems to have changed. Elder Shi asked doubtfully. Several elders around him remained silent. They were also curious about what was going on with Chen Feixing's current state. The sect leader Su Yongnian frowned and sighed. This little guy, the Chen family, can't think of it. Chen family, Duty Yutong, Shi, and Jiang Yushan all looked puzzled, but Chao Mu looked calm and kept his eyes on Chen Feixing. He. Su Yongnian glanced at a few people and explained, the Chen family asked someone to build an Earth-level magic weapon many years ago. In order to make this Earth-level magic weapon loyal to the Chen family forever, it was originally made from the direct lineage of the Chen family. Incorporated into the magical weapon, so that it can be used by the Chen family forever. What? Is it the blood refining method? Several people were surprised and looked at Su Yongnian. Su Yongnian nodded. The expressions of the people around them changed. The blood refining method is a very vicious weapon refining method. Some big families use extreme measures to ensure that the magical weapons they refine will be loyal to them forever and to prevent outsiders from paying attention to them. A large amount of blood essence and blood from direct lineage members are used during the refining process, and fed with this blood to make the magic weapon familiar with the taste of blood essence and blood. From then on, it can only be used by people with this bloodline. However, the reason why blood refining is called a vicious method of refining weapons is because the magical weapon swallows the essence and blood in the initial stage of its formation. Therefore, in the future, the cultivation of the magical weapon requires a person of this direct bloodline to become the host of the magical weapon. The magic weapon can only be put into the body when it reaches the earth level. This is also the reason why the magic weapon refined by the blood refining method has the lowest earth level, raising magical artifacts with human bodies. Several elders glanced at the ferocious-looking Chen Feixing on the stage, and then looked at Chao Mu, who looked calm. They all felt that Chao Mu was extremely calm now, not surprised at all, seem. Ha! Chao Mu looked around at everyone, then smiled bitterly and said, "No need to guess, I was the one who refined this earth-level magic weapon." Although everyone had made some guesses just now, it was another thing to hear Chao Mu admit it himself. The insidious part of the blood refining method is that after choosing a host, this direct descendant needs to continuously feed the magic weapon with his own essence and blood, which will cause great harm to the host every time. So generally speaking, the host does not live to be 30 years old. However, the host will also be nourished by the magic weapon in the body, and it can mobilize part of its power to greatly increase its strength. However, the cost of use is also extremely high, because the magic weapon will require more blood and essence at that time. If the host is not cultivated enough, or does not have enough blood and essence to support it, it will eventually be turned into a mummy and die. Therefore, this method is called a forbidden technique by the weapon refiner, which is against the harmony of heaven and earth. Although Xiao Mu talks little on weekdays, they have known each other for many years, and they both think that the other person does not look like this kind of person. Xiao Mu explained, I owed the Chen family a huge favor. So I agreed when they asked me to refine this magical weapon. This magical weapon is a middle-grade earth-level weapon. It is common sense that the stronger the magic weapon, the more terrifying the backlash will be. After hearing what Xiao Mu said, no one asked any more questions, and everyone focused on the ring. On the ring, Xiao Fan frowned. The momentum Chen Feixing unleashed was terrifying, like a wild beast. This at least has the strength to achieve the great perfection of Qi transformation realm. Xiao Fan muttered to himself, facing such an opponent he did not dare to be careless at all. Holding the coiling dragon spear in his hand, he looked at the opposite side warily. At this time, Chen Feixing's aura was still increasing, a terrifying energy fluctuation formed around him, and a bloody smell was emitted from outside his body, which was thick and pungent. Xiao Fan, come on! Chen Feixing suddenly shouted loudly, and the blood energy floating outside his body condensed towards his right hand, slowly turning into the shadow of a blood-red sword. All the disciples watching were shocked. The strength Chen Feixing showed was too terrifying. Let me go. What kind of cultivation level does this Chen Feixing have? Is this still the Qi transformation realm? It feels like you are already at the Tongtian realm. Terrible, so terrible. Nangong Lingxian, as the strongest person in this generation, her beautiful eyes were full of solemnity at this time. So strong. She did not expect that there would be such a strong person in the selection process for the outer sect of the Ji Immortal sect. She was not confident that she could defeat Chen Feixing in this state. Everyone silently wiped a cold sweat for Xiao Fan, the evil star. In fact, it was not only them who were surprised, but also the elders such as Su Yongnian and He Yutang were also surprised. In previous years, the outer disciples of Jixin sect were only at the 8th level of the Qi transformation realm, but this year there was an additional Nangong Lingxian, the 9th level of the Qi transformation realm. There are also Chen Feixing and Shan Yanghui from the 8th level, plus Xiao Fan, an alternative who has leapfrogged the challenge. Therefore, this year's selection of outer disciples is a rare one. Chen Feixing's figure shot out at lightning speed, with bright red blood floating outside his body, making the ground he passed by flash red light. Xiao Fan also rushed forward with Panlong's spear in hand. Facing such an enemy, he dared not be careless at all. Bang bang bang. Instantly, the two sides fought together. Although the long sword in Chen Feixing's hand was transformed into a phantom, it was as if it had substance. It collided with Panlong's spear and was not at a disadvantage at all, and even suppressed Panlong's spear faintly. So strong. Xiao Fan was surprised. At present, Chen Feixing's strength was the strongest among all the people he had fought. Even the head of the Su family was far inferior to Chen Feixing at this time. Kill! Chen Feixing shouted angrily, his eyes were bloodshot, and the phantom of the long sword slashed down from the air. Xiao Fan frowned, and the Panlong spear was wrapped around to block the sword in the air. He felt his wrist was numb from the shock. So strong. In Xiao Fan's opinion, Chen Feixing's current state is somewhat similar to the state of the disciples of Piamiao Immortal Palace after taking the Burning Blood Pill, but he is more crazy than the Burning Blood Pill, and his strength is stronger. Kill! 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 Chen Feixing let out a sharp roar, his face was extremely ferocious, and he attacked Xiao Fan like crazy. Xiao Fan clearly felt that Chen Feixing's will was very weak at this moment, or from the moment he became this state, his will began to be gradually suppressed by some mysterious power. Chen Feixing was like a mad beast, holding a blood-red phantom longsword, and he didn't know how to retreat or dodge. And he was always attacking desperately, he didn't even think, it was completely the instinct to pursue the battle. Chapter 94 War of Attrition. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This battle can be said to be the most intense competition in the ring area in so many days. Everyone can see Xiao Fan's terror. He is the evil star in everyone's mouth. As for Chen Feixing, he is usually very low-key. We only know that he has a high level of cultivation, but he never expected that he would be so strong. Even Xiao Fan, the evil star in their eyes at this time, could only resist. Chen Shi's face looked ugly under the ring. His other mission when he came here was to keep an eye on Chen Feixing. If there was any abnormality in his body, he would immediately report it back to the Chen family. Kill. Chen Feixing was like a wild beast, and the phantom sword had already scratched several blood marks on Xiao Fan's body. As if smelling the blood on Xiao Fan's body, Chen Feixing's face became even more ferocious, looking exactly like a wild beast. Only know how to kill. Xiao Fan frowned. The coiling dragon spear could only barely resist the phantom sword. According to Xiao Fan's guess, Chen Feixing must have used some kind of secret method to forcibly increase his strength, otherwise it would be impossible to be in this state. This state of affairs will never last. Want a protracted war? A smile gradually appeared on Xiao Fan's solemn face. I have never been afraid before. Although Xiao Fan was smiling, but this smile made those who saw it feel very scary. Isn't this Xiao Fan crazy? How can he still laugh at this time? I think he might be crazy. Chen Feixing on the opposite side is too strong, so he might be scared out of his wits. No way, this Xiao Fan is an evil star. Will he be afraid? From the beginning to the end of this competition, the discussion never stopped. Zhu Gang also looked very ugly in the crowd. He had been very confident in Xiao Fan's strength before, but seeing Chen Feixing's current state, he couldn't help but feel a cold sweat for Xiao Fan. None of the sect leaders Su Yongnian or the four elders spoke. Their attention was focused on the arena. They could see that Xiao Fan was in a very bad state at this time, and Chen Feixing could only barely resist in such a state. However, Chen Feixing's condition is also very bad. Although it cannot be seen on the surface, based on their cultivation, they can tell that the essence and blood in Chen Feixing's body are burning rapidly. When there is insufficient blood and essence, Chen Feixing will fall from this state. In the blink of an eye, half an hour passed. The white robe on Xiao Fan's body was already in tatters, and the tiger's mouth holding the coiling dragon spear had been torn, and blood was dripping on the ground along the edge of his palm. On the other hand, although Chen Feixing suffered some injuries on his body, they were not serious. His face looked even more ferocious than before. Kill. From the beginning of the war to the present, Chen Feixing has said nothing else and kept spitting out the word kill. He is completely pursuing the instinct to kill. Damn it, Xiao Fan cursed, and the portable dragon gun fought with Chen Feixing again. He did not use the two killing moves of Throat Lock and Liu Hejan. One is because it consumes too much. If he doesn't do it right, his spiritual power will be exhausted. Facing such a weird Chen Feixing, he will lose. On the other hand, the two of them were just competing, not a life and death battle. He didn't want to accidentally kill each other. Bang bang bang. The shadow of the long sword in Chen Feixing's hand cut several cracks into the body of the Panlong spear. This scene made everyone who saw it gasp. The coiling dragon spear is a Xian-level magic weapon, but it can be cut into cracks. You must know that Chen Feixing does not have a magic weapon in his hand, but a shadow condensed by his blood. The fight between these two people made the onlookers feel helpless. Are they the same age? How could the gap be so big? Kill. Chen Feixing rushed forward again, his scarlet eyes filled only with killing, and all he could think about was how to tear the man opposite him apart. Xiao Fan took a deep breath and held the coiling dragon spear tighter with both hands. Facing Chen Feixing in this state, the method of exchanging injuries for injuries and risking his life was useless, because the other party has lost his mind. You didn't even think about it. How about exchanging wounds with this kind of person? That is seeking death. The four elders and the sect leader Su Yongnian in the audience all looked solemn, shocked by the strength of these two new disciples. This Xiao Fan is not simple. He is only at the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm, but he is so strong, that the one who spoke was Jiang Yushan, who had always had a high vision. He had evaluated Xiao Fan once before, however, this was the first time that several elders around him heard someone being praised by Jiang Yushan in such a tone. It's not simple. If it drags on, Chen Feixing will lose, it's a pity. Shi Ji shook his head and smiled bitterly, both of them have spent too much in this competition. No matter who wins, they probably have no chance of winning against Nangong Lingxian. No one refutes it, because it's true. In fact, Chen Feixing himself never imagined that Xiao Fan could be so strong and could persist in his state for so long. His initial idea was to defeat Xiao Fan in his strongest state, then preserve his spiritual power, and then use this state to fight Nangong Lingxian. But he misjudged Xiao Fan's strength. Xiao Fan was equally surprised, at the same time, the 8th level of Qi realm. And Chen Feixing is much stronger than Shan Yanghui. He Yutong looked ugly, and said nothing. Su Yongnian glanced at him, sighed, and said nothing, only he knew that he Yutong cheated again, letting Xiao Fan appear first against Chen Feixing. Regarding He Yutong's selfishness, Su Yongnian was very clear. He just wanted to see what Xiao Fan's strength was. He crushed Li Dong, who was at the same level, and defeated Shan Yanghui, who was a level above him, so he wanted to see how Xiao Fan would perform when fighting Chen Feixing and Nangong Lingxian. As a result, even He Yutong himself could not have imagined that Chen Feixing would be so ruthless when playing with his life. A person who is usually too low-key and has no sense of presence can be so cruel. If Xiao Fan in the ring knew this, I don't know how he would feel. At this time, he felt that his internal organs were tumbling. Chen Feixing was too strong and was always at his peak. As he kept fighting, his spiritual energy was consumed rapidly. He didn't have time to enter the star map to supplement, so he had no choice but to hold on. This protracted battle continues. Nearly half an hour later, the blood mist outside Chen Feixing's body gradually became thinner, and his attacks became less fierce. His pupils gradually enlarged and began to return to their original appearance little by little. It's over. Under the ring, Su Yongnian sighed. The same goes for several elders around him. Chen Feixing has reached his limit. On the ring, Xiao Fan naturally noticed this. At this time, he was covered in blood and his physical strength had been exhausted. Chen Feixing wanted to continue fighting, but his figure stopped in place, the long sword in his hand disappeared, and the bright red violent aura around him dissipated. Is it over? Xiao Fan murmured. Opposite him, Chen Feixing knelt on the ground with a bang. The flush on his face also dissipated and turned into his original fair appearance, but at this time there was no trace of blood. The pupils were dilated, like a dead body. Chapter 95 The Final Battle of the Third Grade Elixir. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Everyone could tell that this battle was over. The final winner was Xiao Fan. He Yutong's figure was like a stream of light, reaching the middle of the ring in the blink of an eye. He glanced at Xiao Fan, who was covered in blood, and then glanced at Chen Feixing, who was like a dead body. Finally, he announced, in the first game, Xiao Fan wins. The disciples onlookers were surprised that Xiao Fan would win, and the battle was too brutal. When Chen Shi heard that the competition was over, he rushed forward to check Chen Feixing's status. If something happened to Chen Feixing, he wouldn't have to live anymore. Su Yongnian turned his gaze to Jiang Yushan and said with a smile, this Chen Feixing is probably going to die or lose half his life. Hey, God is jealous of Yanghui. Jiang Yushan was made uncomfortable by his look and threw a bottle of elixir from his arms with a look of disgust on his face. It's better to know how to make elixirs. Su Yongnian smiled and was about to duck to the ring. Slow. At this time Jiang Yushan spoke again, then took out another bottle of elixir from his arms and threw it to Su Yongnian. This bottle is for Xiao Fan. Su Yongnian glanced at him in surprise, then nodded and turned into a stream of light and appeared in the ring. He threw the first jade bottle to Chen Shi and said, take it for him. Thank you, master. Chen Shi took the jade bottle and hurriedly took out the elixir inside and fed it to Chen Feixing without asking what kind of elixir it was. After taking the elixir, Chen Feixing's face gradually gained a trace of color, and his eyelids could vaguely twitch a few times. Seeing that Chen Feixing was fine, Su Yongnian threw another bottle of elixir to Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan was stunned after catching the elixir. He didn't expect that even he had it. Su Yongnian smiled and said, Elder Jiang gave it to you, please accept it. Elder Jiang, that you don't need to think about it to know that it must be Jiang Yushan. Xiao Fan was stunned for a moment, and then he looked towards the audience. At this time, Jiang Yushan was expressionless and had a serious look on his face. Noticing Xiao Fan's eyes looking at him, Jiang Yushan nodded slightly. Although Xiao Fan didn't know why Jiang Yushan gave him the elixir, he still bowed with his fists in the air. Opening the jade bottle, there were 3 black pills inside. Xiao Fan opened his mouth and swallowed one. He could feel the elixir entering his body along his throat, like a warm current entering his body. It dissipated directly after reaching his stomach, and this warm current quickly traveled throughout his body. It made him feel warm and comfortable all over his body. Is this a high-grade elixir? Xiao Fan was shocked. In just a moment, he felt that half of his body's spiritual energy had recovered. Originally, he planned to enter the star map and seize the time to take spiritual herbs and elixirs. Looking at it this way, I'm not in a hurry for the time being. He Yutong, who had been standing by the side, glanced at the pill that Xiao Fan had just swallowed, and his eyes flashed with surprise. 3rd grade elixir. Guiyuan pill. The fact that it can reach the 3rd level is enough to prove that this elixir is extraordinary. He Yutong's eyes gradually became strange, and he glanced at Su Yongnian. The latter was also very surprised. The elixir he gave Chen Feixing just now was a 2nd grade elixir, but he didn't expect that the small bottle Jiang Yushan asked him to give to Xiao Fan turned out to be a 3rd grade elixir, and seeing that Xiao Fan only took 1 pill, he put the jade bottle away. This proves that the other party still exists. Why is this old guy so willing? Could it be? Sect leader Su Yongnian's eyes lit up, and he made a bold guess. Jiang Yushan also fell in love with Xiao Fan and wanted to become his disciple. If this is the case, it would be interesting. Su Yongnian looked at He Yutong with a smile on his face and said nothing. This left He Yutong speechless. After looking around, He Yutong said, "An hour later, the 2nd competition will begin, Xiao Fan versus Nangong Lingxian." That there was a heated discussion all around. Nangong Lingxian, the recognized #1 person in this selection, has the 9th level of Qi transformation realm. Xiao Fan, the evil star in everyone's mouth, is extremely ruthless, and he is extremely vengeful. Have you noticed that no one who fought with Xiao Fan seemed to be able to get off the stage well? Suddenly someone in the crowd whispered. Although his voice was very low, the people present were all Qi transformation realm monks with hearing far beyond ordinary people, so his voice was heard by most people. This sentence undoubtedly resonated with everyone. It seems that none of Xiao Fan's opponents are doing well. Chen Feixing's face gradually turned red. Chen sure helped him to step off the stage and leave. His eyes were full of unwillingness. However, he was convinced of Xiao Fan's strength. He was very strong, very strong. Even if he uses the power of the sealed magic weapon in his body, he is still no match. A moment after taking the Guiyuan pill, Xiao Fan exhaled. The wounds on his body had stopped bleeding and his spiritual power had recovered a lot. He ducked out of the ring and planned to find a quiet corner to enter the starry map. Nangong Lingxian always frowned and remained silent, because whether it was Xiao Fan or Chen Feixing, both of them were very strong. No matter who is at his peak, she has no confidence that he will win. Although the next competition was very beneficial to her, she was not happy. Can't you fight these two with all your strength? Nangong Lingxuan's eyes flashed with loneliness. Needless to say, Chen Feixing's body is now overstretched and it will take at least several months to recover, and Xiao Fan was injured all over. After such a fierce battle, how much strength could he recover in 1 hour? Nangong Lingxian felt very complicated about winning like this. After getting off the ring, Xiao Fan went to a secluded corner alone. Zhu Gang strode over and asked how Xiao Fan was injured. I need to close my eyes and rest my mind. Please help me look around. Xiao Fan told Zhu Gang, closed his eyes, and entered the star map with his consciousness. After the last test, he was sure that even if he entered the star map, outsiders would not notice any difference in him. Entering the star map, Xiao Fan gulped down the elixir without saying a word. These elixirs began to slowly nourish his body, allowing his injuries to gradually recover. Sure enough, no matter how precious the elixir is, it won't work as quickly as taking the elixir. Xiao Fan murmured that he had taken pills several times before, but there was never such a strong contrast this time. Although he didn't know the grade of the elixir Jiang Yushan gave him just now, both the recovery effect and the medicinal power were much stronger than simply chewing the elixir. It seems that we need to have a good relationship with Jiang Yushan in the future. Xiao Fan murmured that he was indeed interested in alchemy. On the other hand, he still needs to refine the heaven-building pill. He believes that Jiang Yushan must have reached the level of a third-level alchemist based on his alchemy skills. However, he did not intend to seek help from others. He wanted to refine the Tianbu Dan himself. Time passes, and an hour passes in the blink of an eye. Xiao Fan also slowly opened his eyes. His aura was stable and his spiritual power had recovered to 90%. The wounds on the surface of the body have stopped bleeding, and we can fight. Nangong Lingxian is already standing on the ring, waiting for Xiao Fan to come on with a stern expression. Chapter 96 Fierce Battle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Xiao Fan stood up and jumped onto the ring. The cold and pretty face of Nangong Lingxian opposite had no expression at all. He Yutong's figure flashed onto the ring. After taking a look at Nangong Lingxian, he set his sights on Xiao Fan. He Yutong let out a soft feeling a little surprised. He could feel that Xiao Fan was full of energy at this time, and the injuries on his body had already recovered to some extent. At first, he felt a little guilty. After all, it was because of his trouble that Xiao Fan was the first to appear against Chen Feixing. Otherwise, with a normal draw, Xiao Fan would have a high chance of becoming the first, but looking at it this way, it seems that I feel a little guilty. There is none left. The third game begins. After He Yutong finished speaking, his whole body turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the ring, flying to Su Yongnian and others in the audience. Xiao Fan exhaled and looked at the woman in front of him who had a face as cold as winter but was extremely beautiful. Nangong Lingxuan's expression on the opposite side was very calm. She looked at the scars on Xiao Fan's body and frowned slightly. You are seriously injured. It's unfair to beat you like this. So I will only use 50% of my strength to compete with you. Her voice was cold, but unusually beautiful. Xiao Fan was startled. He didn't expect that this cold and charming woman would say this when she talked to him for the first time. Want to give yourself some water? Xiao Fan coughed dryly, and then said, No, my injury is fine, you can just perform normally. He began to wonder, was this woman not very smart? The battle between them is basically a battle for first place. Although the three of them already have a cave, the first one still has the reward of choosing an earth-level technique. I have to say that as for Nangong Lingxuan's brain circuit, Xiao Fan was a little confused. You said it yourself, you thief, you will die. A silver-white long sword appeared in Nangong Lingxuan's hand. The sword's light flashed, and you could tell at a glance that it was not a mortal thing. A thief? Xiao Fan was stunned and completely confused. This was the first time he talked to Nangong Lingxian. How could he become a thief? And looking at this woman's attitude, is she here to fight him? Xiao Fan was not careless. The coiling dragon spear appeared in his hand and resisted Nangong Lingxuan's sword. Boom! Nangong Lingxian frowned, and after her sword failed, she continued to wave the sword in her hand. Her swordsmanship is very superb and her speed is very fast. Every time her sword strikes the air, the sound of hiss and hiss can be heard. However, her attacks were all blocked by Xiao Fan. Is your injury really okay? After exchanging more than 10 moves, Nangong Lingxian asked coldly. The opponent's movements were flexible, his breath was not messy at all, and every blow was so powerful that he didn't feel hurt at all. Didn't I just say that my injury was fine? Xiao Fan was speechless. He clearly said it just now. Liar, seeking death. A rare expression of anger appeared on Nangong Lingxuan's face, and the strength of the sword in her hand increased by 3 points. Xiao Fan was almost going crazy. He had said from the beginning that his injury was fine. How come he is a liar again? And what happened to the lewd thief? Anger appeared on Nangong Lingxuan's cold face, and she kept swinging her sword, hitting Xiao Fan's vitals with every blow. In her mind, Xiao Fan stared at her intently during the Bone Age test, and from that moment on she was labeled as a thief. But this time the two of them met. Nangong Lingxian was already prepared for a fair fight without using all her strength. As a result, the other party didn't have any trouble. The more Nangong Lingxian thought about it, the angrier she became. and her offensive became more and more fierce. Xiao Fan was also frightened. He knew that this woman was a ruthless character, but he didn't expect that she would be so ruthless. The strength of the 9th level of the Qi transformation realm exploded. Nangong Lingxian was a genius among geniuses, and she was not afraid of leapfrog challenges. She definitely has the strength of the great perfection of Qi transformation realm, and no ordinary great perfection of Qi transformation realm will be her opponent. So cruel, that Xiao Fan felt the power from the opponent's long sword, which was only slightly weaker than Chen Feixing's just now. The opponent is currently only attacking under normal conditions. It seems that when the other party just said that they would only use 50% of their strength, they were not lying. Xiao Fan was sure at this moment that Nangong Lingxian had indeed let off steam at the beginning of the fight. In the audience, the sect leader Su Yongnian and a group of elders watched the competition with great interest. Different from the previous one, there was not such a brutal fight, but it was actually very entertaining to watch. On the one hand, it's because Nangong Lingxian is extremely beautiful, and her posture with the sword makes every move charming. Although Xiao Fan looked pitiful, his white robe had turned into tattered red clothes. But actually it's not a big deal. Who do you think can win this game? Su Yongnian smiled and looked at the 4 elders, wanting to hear their opinions. Haha. I don't know who will win, but Xiao Fan's injuries healed so quickly. Brother Jiang, your elixir is really effective. Shi Ji covered her mouth and smiled. Everyone else also looked at Jiang Yushan. Xiao Fan's injuries healed too quickly. No matter how amazing his talent is, he can't improve so quickly. The only explanation is the reason for taking Jiang Yushan elixir. Jiang Yushan raised his chest and raised his head with an arrogant expression. He did not open his mouth to explain anything. An alchemist should have such an arrogant attitude. In fact, he himself was a little confused. What he gave was obviously a 3rd-grade Guiyuan pill. Although it had a miraculous effect on spiritual power and injuries, it could not be fully recovered in an hour, but naturally he won't talk about this kind of thing. He Yutong glanced at Jiang Yushan, and then at Su Yongnian who was smiling. Could it be that this old guy also has a crush on Xiao Fan? He Yutong felt a sense of crisis in his heart, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. The fight between these 2 people was not vigorous and soul-stirring. Nangong Lingxian is a woman and does not like rough fighting methods. All her attacks have the right strength, although it seems to be average in power. This is all due to the aura being restrained. Xiao Fan felt it most clearly. Although the aura seemed ordinary, the force of every blow of this woman was very strong. Moreover, the opponent's swordsmanship was extremely profound, and coupled with his extremely fast speed, he was unable to take advantage of the spear in his hand and could only barely resist. I really underestimated him. Xiao Fan felt very suffocated from the beating, and felt like he was powerless. Once you get up close with a long gun, there is no advantage at all. In particular, the long sword in Nangong Lingxuan's hand is not of ordinary quality, and its grade is at least above the mid-grade Xian level. The coiling dragon spear had already been damaged in many places during the battle with Chen Feixing. Now after fighting with Nangong Lingxian for a moment, the gun body had several more slash marks. Nangong Lingxian is so strong, she deserves to be the number 1. This evil star is really bad. It seems like he can't beat Fairy Nangong. You can't say that. After all, Xiao Fan fought so fiercely in the last battle, and he is still injured. No, look, why did Xiao Fan put away the spear? There were heated discussions all around, but Xiao Fan, the focus of their discussion at this time, put the coiling dragon spear into his storage bag, but there was a long sword in his hand. Chapter 97 Weird Green Flame. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? Xiao Fan actually plans to use a sword. Is this also a Xian-level magic weapon? Let me tell you, this Xiao Fan actually has 2 Xian-level magic weapons. Seeing Xiao Fan take out a mysterious level magic weapon and long sword in his hand, the surrounding people started talking again. They didn't expect that Xiao Fan could also use a sword. What's even more hateful is that he actually has 2 mysterious level magic weapons. Are Xian-level magic weapons so worthless? And isn't he a son-in-law? Where did so many mysterious level magic weapons come from? This sword. Elder Qiao Mu frowned and looked carefully at the long sword in Xiao Fan's hand. What's wrong with this sword? Su Yongnian asked. The other people also looked at Qiao Mu, even Jiang Yushan. After all, Qiao Mu is the expert when it comes to weapon refining. This sword should be a magic weapon refined by Piaomiao Immortal Palace. How come it is in his hand? Qiao Mu explained. His eyes were sinister and he recognized the origin of this long sword at a glance. The sword of Misty Immortal Palace. Several people around him were also stunned. They did not doubt Qiao Mu's words, and it was impossible for the other party to misunderstand this trivial matter, but how come Xiao Fan has the magic weapon of Piaomiao Immortal Palace on his body? This thing makes people feel a little suspicious. Could this Xiao Fan be an escapee from Piaomiao Immortal Palace, or a spy sent here? Shi Ji said coldly. It can be heard from her tone that she has no good impression of Piaomiao Immortal Palace. Won't. The sect leader Su Yongnian directly denied this speculation and said, if it is someone sent by Piaomiao Immortal Palace, how could it be possible that they don't even do this minimum concealment? Hearing this, no one spoke to refute. After a moment, Su Yongnian spoke again. Forget it, I have sent people to investigate Xiao Fan's background before. It won't be long before they come back. Besides, instead of us guessing this, it would be better to wait until he finishes the competition and ask him personally. In the arena, Nangong Lingshuan's pretty face was a little more angry than before, and she said coldly again, you actually insulted me. Xiao Fan was confused. This time he was completely confused. Wait, you said I insulted you. What did I insult you for? Please explain it clearly to me this time. He hasn't figured it out yet. Just a liar. But what does it mean to insult her? How could he insult her when he didn't do anything but take out a sword? Using a sword in front of me, aren't you insulting me? Nangong Lingshuan's face was ugly and she said coldly, you are a disciple, and you will die. As soon as she finished speaking, she rushed forward again with her sword in hand. Xiao Fan wanted to jump into the sea at this moment. What did he do? The coiling dragon spear didn't work, so he just changed it to a sword. Why is this an insult to you? If you weren't too strong, how could you force yourself to use the sword? Isn't it because using a gun is too disadvantageous? Wrong. Even if I use my sword, it won't hurt you, right? Xiao Fan thought about this and taunted coldly, apart from you, no one else is allowed to use the sword. You. Nangong Lingxian was choked by Xiao Fan's words. She had an arrogant temperament, beautiful appearance, and cold personality, which always created a sense of oppression that made people awe. Such a fairy-like existence has always been awed by men. She had never been ridiculed by a man like this. You deserve to die. Nangong Lingshuan's cold and pretty face was almost dark at this moment. She raised the long sword in her hand, chanted the magic formula in her mouth, and shouted. By Ling sword, burn. A stream of green fire emanated from the long sword in her hand. In an instant, the long sword was enveloped in green flames and turned into a flaming sword. What? Xiao Fan frowned, and he felt a strong danger from the green fire. What kind of trick is this? The magic weapon can actually catch fire. This fairy Nangong is indeed recognized as the strongest this year. Why is this flame blue? The onlookers were astonished. Even if they were not at the level of heaven-reaching realm, they could use spells to attack, but their power would generally be average. Therefore, most Qi transformation realms choose magical weapons or physical attacks. However, Nangong Lingxian can actually make the magic weapon emit green flames. Su Yongnian sighed, this little girl is not simple. I didn't expect that she has learned the first level of the Nangong family's ancestral exercises so quickly. Is this the Nangong family's secret technique? Shi Ji asked. Yes, this is it, but it's just a beginner's step. It's still far from perfect, but it can be used in the Qi transformation realm. This female doll is not easy. Su Yongnian also spoke highly of Nangong Lingxian. He had naturally seen the ancestral skills of the Nangong family based on his experience. The technique is extremely powerful. but being able to use it in the Qi transformation realm shows Nangong Lingxuan's extraordinary talent. You bastard, you must die. Chapter 98 Cut Yourself Off. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Nangong Lingxian waved the long sword in her hand, and the green flames fluttered, which was beautiful and moving. Xiao Fan was speechless. How did he get the title of disciple? One moment he's a thief, another moment he's a liar, and now he's a scoundrel. Bang bang that the two fought against each other again. The long sword in Xiao Fan's hand was a mysterious magic weapon from Piao Miao Immortal Palace. Although it was also low grade, it was stronger than the coiling dragon spear, but when facing the long sword in Nangong Lingxuan's hand, he obviously felt very strenuous, especially the green flames on the opponent's long sword. After getting closer, he realized that the green flames had no temperature. On the contrary, the green flames fluttered and emitted a cold feeling, cold flame. Xiao Fan has never seen such a strange thing. The flames can actually feel cold, and every time the cyan flame touches the long sword in his hand, there will be a biting cold feeling coming from the opponent's long sword. In other words, it came from Qinyan. His wrist holding the sword felt like it was in the ice and snow, and it was bitingly cold. This Qinyan. Xiao Fan frowned and recalled the battle with Murong Fuzai over the spirit stone veins. The opponent has a trick that can slow down the body movements, which is to freeze the soul. However, unlike Qin Yan, Murong Fu's technique was aimed at the soul and did not cause any substantial damage, but the green flames on Nangong Lingxuan's sword are as real as they come. This feeling of biting coldness in the palm of your hand is absolutely real. What exactly is going on? Xiao Fan was a little confused. You bastard, go to hell. Nangong Lingxuan's aura was a bit disordered, and mobilizing Qin Yan was also very draining on her. Xiao Fan was able to resist, but his movements also slowed down a lot, and the wrist holding the sword was numb, and he was about to lose consciousness. Whoosh! Nangong Lingxuan's sword slashed across Xiao Fan's left arm. There were no blood marks as expected. Xiao Fan's left arm showed no reaction except that his clothes were scratched by the green flames on the sword. Not even a drop of blood was spilled. However, at this time, Xiao Fan's face turned pale and he retreated quickly. Only he knew that his left arm could no longer move. It's not quite right to say that I can't move. To be precise, I'm frozen. Damn. Xiao Fan cursed lowly and glanced at the wound on his left arm. A green flame was burning. There was no blood from the wound, but the burning green flame sent out a biting coldness and quickly traveled throughout his body. It does not come from the soul, but from the physical body. It is a real cold. This Nangong family's secret technique is really extraordinary. Several elders in the audience saw it clearly and gave this evaluation. They could clearly see Xiao Fan's current state. His left arm was scratched by Qin Yan, and his blood energy was greatly reduced in an instant. What level is this secret technique of the Nangong family? That the person who asked was He Yutang. He was also a proud and talkative person and rarely asked questions. Su Yongnian shook his head and smiled bitterly when he heard this. I don't know, it is said that there is no level, just a secret method, but this method is not simple. He Yutang didn't ask, and the other elders didn't say anything either. This weird attack method was frightening. The disciples watching the battle didn't notice anything, but they were different. When the two sides fight, unless they have the strength to crush them, they will inevitably be injured, and becoming an opponent against someone who masters this kind of blue flame means that after you are injured, your whole body will be frozen and biting like poison, and your combat power will be greatly reduced. This is too scary. Although the cultivation of several of them is above the Xiandan realm, even if the physical body is destroyed, as long as the golden elixir is still there, they can be reborn. But if they face enemies of the same level, being attacked by such a weird method, if the golden elixir is also destroyed, the green flames seem to be corrosive, lingering on Xiao Fan's left arm wound for a long time. He dared not touch it with his hands easily for fear of getting it on other parts of his body, and if the green flame is not extinguished, the blood all over his body will seem to be mixed with ice. With every breath, as the blood flows throughout the body, there is severe pain all over the body. Horrible. Very scary. Damn it, Xiao Fan frowned. This green flame was much more terrifying than Murong Fu's attack on the soul. he hurriedly took out various items from the storage bag, trying to extinguish the flame. However, it was all in vain. The cyan flame was ignored when the clothes touched it. When the water touched the cyan flame, the flame did not change, but Xiao Fan's arm hurt even more. Nangong Lingxian said coldly, "You thief, the Qin Yen will never go out." "Stop dreaming." Qin Yen is involved in her spiritual power. Only she still has spiritual power and is still infusing spiritual power into Qin Yen, so the Qin Yen she created will not go out. "Damn it," Xiao Fan cursed in a low voice, "I tried various methods, but the blue inflammation on my left arm could not be extinguished. Severe pain always traveled throughout my body, and my body was extremely cold. It's over. Look at this, Xiao Fan is over. Fairy Nangong is too strong, Xiao Fan is no match for her at all. It's no wonder, Fairy Nangong is at the 9th level of the Qi transformation realm, and Xiao Fan is only at the 7th level of the Qi transformation realm. How can we fight?" Everyone thought that Xiao Fan was destined to lose, even the sect leader Su Yongnian and the elders agreed with this view. After all, Qin Yen from the Nangong family is too terrifying. How to deal with the cultivation of Qi transformation realm? They asked themselves, if they were in the Qi transformation realm and were attacked by this green flame, there would be nothing they could do. They thought there was nothing they could do, and they also thought there was nothing Xiao Fan could do. However, this time in the arena, a trace of fierceness flashed in Xiao Fan's eyes. He raised his right hand high and swung his long sword directly to the Qin Yen on his left arm. Chapter 99 Black Giant Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Everyone around them stared with their eyes wide open, and no one could believe what they saw in front of them. Xiao Fan actually cut himself with a sword. Boom! A piece of flesh stained with green inflammation fell to the ground on Xiao Fan's left arm. The entire left arm was cut off in half. In an instant, blood spurted out from Xiao Fan's left arm, the green inflammation disappeared, and the ice he felt when the blood flowed on his body disappeared. At the same time, there was severe pain in his left arm. The sword he had just cut off all the flesh and blood in half of his arm, and then all the flesh stained with green inflammation was cut off. Gudong! The sounds of swallowing can be heard all around. Is this Xiao Fan too cruel? Crazy, absolutely crazy, this is everyone's common view of Xiao Fan, a ruthless man who can cut himself with a sword. Who is not afraid? Nangong Lingshuan's pupils also shrank suddenly. She never imagined that the other party would use such a cruel method to remove the green inflammation on his body. This little guy is ruthless enough. Elder Shiji gave such an evaluation. Several elders around him also agreed with this statement. It was indeed cruel, Qiaomu said. You can be so cruel to yourself in a competition, but if you treat others too much, you will be even more cruel. This is also a fact. Xiao Fan is cruel to himself and even more cruel to his enemies. It can be seen from Li Dong's fate. Xiao Fan's left arm spurted blood. He didn't have time to treat the wound, so he took out the hemostatic pill from his storage bag and hurriedly drank it. In fact, if one is not in the Tongtian realm, severed limbs cannot be regenerated. Just now he thought about cutting off his entire left arm. After treating the wound, Xiao Fan exhaled and clenched his fist with his left hand. His left arm had returned to normal and could be moved. Thieves suffer death. Although Nangong Lingxian was surprised, she was not someone who had never seen blood. Using Qin Yen will also consume a lot of energy for her, so she must fight quickly. Xiao Fan exhaled. It was more dangerous to face someone like Nangong Lingxian head-on than to face the crazy Chen Feixing. This Qin Yen is so terrifying. After all, it hurts to cut yourself. Xiao Fan retreated sharply. This time he did not intend to confront Nangong Lingxian head-on. His speed was so fast that Nangong Lingxian could not catch up for a while, and the two chased him on the huge ring. Xiao Fan turned around and looked at Nangong Lingxian behind him, with a hint of cruelty in his eyes. Whoosh! Suddenly, a spear shot out and attacked Nangong Lingxian at an extremely fast speed. What? Nangong Lingxian was startled, and she stopped and hurriedly blocked it with her long sword. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. However, at this time, 3 more spears were projected out, aiming at Nangong Lingxian. No one around them expected that Xiao Fan could actually use hidden weapons. And shouldn't the hidden weapons be flying knives or flying swords? How could this be a spear? And if you look carefully, these projected spears are yellow-level magic weapon spears. Thieves, deserve to die, Nangong Lingxian cursed, thinking that Xiao Fan was too despicable for unexpectedly attacking her, but equally, she also thought Xiao Fan was too naive. He thought he could defeat her by throwing a few spears. Nangong Lingxian jumped up and dodged the 3 spears fired from behind. Whoosh! 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 At this time, 3 more spears were fired at Nangong Lingxian from a blind angle, and Xiao Fan himself didn't know when he reached the top of Nangong Lingxian's head and chopped it down with his long sword. The angle of Xiao Fan's sneak attack and projection spear was very tricky. He predicted in advance that Nangong Lingxian would definitely jump up to dodge, so he aimed his spear at various blind spots in the air in advance. Nangong Lingxian frowned. She was dressed in white and was as white as snow. She had not been injured since the battle, but the pressure on her was extremely heavy. Using Qin Yen consumes a lot of her spiritual power, and she has already consumed 70% of her spiritual power. She didn't use Qin Yen to attack when she was hot-headed, but because she knew that with her current strength, she would not be able to defeat Xiao Fan without using Qin Yen. She watched the battle between Xiao Fan and Chen Feixing. He had an estimate of Xiao Fan's strength in his heyday, but that passionate young man just now, the man who fought to the death with Chen Feixing, he would actually choose to sneak attack on a woman. Nangong Lingxian couldn't believe it. However, she is known as the most powerful person in this selection and is a direct descendant of the Nangong family. Naturally, she will not be defeated so easily. She patted the storage bag, and a giant sword over 1 meter long appeared in her left hand. The whole body is jet black, giving people a heavy and indestructible feeling. What? Xiao Fan frowned. The black giant sword was very strange, but he was already close and there was no reason to retreat. Nangong Lingxian holds a giant sword in her left hand and a long sword in her right hand, floating in the air. This scene is very strange. The moment the giant sword in her left hand appeared, she hurriedly swung towards the 3 spears, and raised her right hand in the air to block Xiao Fan's blow. The 3 spears were easily blocked by the giant sword, and Xiao Fan's blow in the air with the sword also failed. However, after Nangong Lingxian blocked the 3 spears with her left hand, she didn't pause for a moment and swung her giant sword to slash Xiao Fan in midair. Xiao Fan hurriedly retracted his long sword to resist the blow of the giant sword. Boom! The long sword in Xiao Fan's hand collided with Nangong Lingxian's giant sword. A sore and numb feeling came from the wrist. The power of this black giant sword was far more powerful than that of a long sword. It was even a bit stronger than what Chen Feixing had just hit. However, at this time, Nangong Lingxian's long sword burning with green flames swung towards Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan frowned, and instantly he relaxed his wrist and used the huge force from the black giant sword to retreat backwards, avoiding the sword. At the same time, he flashed backwards very quickly, and in the blink of an eye he was several 100 meters away from Nangong Lingxian. Chapter 100: The Last Sword of the Giant Sword. You are listening at MaleProtagonist. He was breathing heavily. The confrontation just now was very dangerous. The black giant sword has amazing defensive power. Although its attack speed is very slow, its power is surprisingly strong, and the weird green flames are even more troublesome. Nangong Lingxian did not pursue her, and her body's aura became even more disordered. This shows that using the black giant sword would take a greater toll on her. Damn it, I even used the giant sword. This giant sword was her biggest weapon. It was originally kept to save her life, but she didn't expect that Xiao Fan would force it out in this place. In fact, Nangong Lingxian had no intention of using the giant K sword from the beginning. After all, using this sword consumes more energy than Qin Yen. Let me go. What level of magic weapon is this black sword? It feels so powerful. What a big sword, it must feel heavy. Fairy Nangong actually has a trump card. Discussions continued, but at this time, another person outside the court paid attention. He was covered in injuries and was in extremely poor condition. His face was extremely pale and he could barely stand up. This person was none other than Chen Feixing. After the battle with Xiao Fan, he was helped by Chen Shi to a corner near the ring to recuperate. As soon as he woke up, he saw the battle between Xiao Fan and Nangong Lingxian. Both of them were very strong, and he was sure that if he didn't use the power of the earth-level magic weapon in his body, he would never be his opponent. All the elders looked a little moved, and they were also very surprised by the brief exchange just now. On the one hand, Xiao Fan, such a tough person, would actually choose to attack secretly. On the other hand was the giant sword that Nangong Lingxian took out. From their perspective, they could naturally see how extraordinary this sword was. What level of magic weapon is this? He Yutang asked, looking at Chao Mu. Chao Mu said, high-grade Xian level. That He Yutang nodded and did not continue to ask. In fact, he also had a guess in his mind. From the power displayed by the long sword and the instantaneous chaos of Nangong Lingxuan's spiritual power, it can be seen that this sword consumes a lot of money. This female doll is not simple. I never expected that the Nangong family would value him so much. The leader of the clan, Su Yongnian, spoke, 18 years old, a genius at the 9th level of the Qi transformation realm. He can use Qin Yen, and he also has a high-grade Xian-level magic weapon. After hearing this, all the elders were silent. They could also feel that Nangong Lingxuan's status in the Nangong family seemed to be very high. It is impossible for a direct descendant to be equipped with a high-grade Xian-level magic weapon. On the ring, Xiao Fan exhaled. Originally, he was not in a completely intact state in this battle. With such a long period of consumption, the spiritual power consumption for him was also very serious. Nangong Lingxuan's consumption was greater than him. Just using the giant sword for a moment, she consumed 10% of her spiritual power. At present, only 20% of the spiritual power is left. After a moment, Nangong Lingxuan's cold voice came out. Xiao Fan, you are very strong. If you can take my next sword, then you will win this battle. She doesn't intend to continue consuming it, it won't do her any good. She planned to use the strongest blow with the giant sword. One move determines the outcome. When Xiao Fan heard this, his expression did not change at all and he did not respond, but the aura around him surged. He doesn't want to spend time with Nangong Lingxian either, although he could feel that the other party was more consumed than him. Everyone around them was attentive, staring at the two people on the ring without blinking. Everyone heard what Nangong Lingxian said just now. For fear of missing this most exciting scene, the same goes for all the elders. They stopped chatting and focused their attention on the arena. Nangong Lingxian took a breath and put the silver sword in her right hand back into the storage bag. She held a giant sword in both hands and raised it high above her head. She was dressed in white like snow, with black hair floating in the air. Her face was stern, and the aura around her body rose sharply, forming strong winds around her body and blowing around. The bluestone beneath Nangong Lingxuan's feet was cracked, and anyone could feel that her next blow was terrifying, very scary. Facing Nangong Lingxian in such a state, Xiao Fan did not dare to be careless at all. He patted the storage bag and the coiled dragon spear appeared in his hand. He holds the coiling dragon spear in his left hand and the magic weapon long sword in his right hand. He frowned, and his momentum was rising. He could dodge the blow and win the battle easily. But Xiao Fan doesn't plan to do that. Nangong Lingxuan's momentum reached a peak and then stopped. The giant sword emitted a black light, and the momentum was overwhelming. Cut! With a cold shout, Nangong Lingxian slashed down the giant sword with both hands, and a jet of black sword energy shot out. Approaching Xiao Fan, who is 100 meters away, this black sword energy is extremely terrifying. The gray stone slabs on the ground were shattered wherever they passed, and the force was overwhelming. Ah! At the same time, Xiao Fan also shouted loudly, his gun and sword buzzed, and he mobilized all his strength to rush forward.